Well, I'm joined here in the studio by news analyst Joseph Danquah and Dr. Warwick Onyeama. Thank you very much indeed, gentlemen, for coming in. Joseph, it's clear the Americans believe that South Africa is deeply implicated in all of this, though the South Africans clearly deny it. Why did the Hawks, that's the elite police in South Africa, feel the need to instigate this investigation?
Well, this is an ongoing investigation which the Hawks said they're going to look into, but they had to take it up because it's seen as a very serious allegation, and if the Americans and the international organizations want it done, it has to be done. But I see that my perspective is that why this? If this money was exchanged hands, South Africa was in a good place to host it without any of this exchange of money. They lost the bid in 2006, and 2010 was natural that they were going to host it after they lost it to Germany. And they had the backing of people like Nelson Mandela and co.
Yeah, but obviously it's a competitive thing. Yeah, so clearly they felt they needed. I mean, no justification for that.
And
of course, these are just allegations, not proven yet. But Warwick, does it seem like the South Africans are prepared to believe a foreign government over their own? Because, I mean, the South African government has robustly denied any sort of, involvement in bribery and all that. I mean, and that appears to be why, I mean, in spite of the fact that their government's denied it, I mean, they've instigated this probe by the elite police.
Well, it depends on what part of South African society you're talking about. You see, if you're looking at the ordinary South African people, they will believe whatever the government tells them. Their own government tells them. And if their government is denying robustly that there was any sort of skullduggery or underhand dealing, then the ordinary South African in the street will accept that, and he will merely regard it as bullying from the developed nations. However, if you ask the African middle class, particularly the upper middle class, which is as much white as it is black, they have considerable misgivings about the probity of their government.
Absolutely, so certainly the ANC government.
They would be much more prepared to accept the likelihood of corruption taking place and would welcome a proper investigation.
You would have thought, because of course this happened, when President Mandela was still around.
Correct.
I mean, you would have thought that all that would have made people feel that this would have been above board, because of course Mandela was an intrinsic part of the bid committee.
Yes, that's what I said earlier on about the bid, being spearheaded by Nelson Mandela. But you've got people like Danny Jordan, who was he's the head of the South African Football Association, who is now a mayor of Nelson Mandela Bay. He was the head of the bid, and these are people who are in the leadership of the ANC. So looking at it, it's now going to create another problem for Jacob Zuma and the ANC government, and this is what, as Doctor was saying, that you see the suspicion of corruption within the ANC is going to widen, and people will see it and take it as a whole, as the government, or not even the associated forces, but the government being a corrupt entity.
In other words, Warwick, however you look at it, this does focus our minds on the suggestion that the way South Africa won the right to host the 2010 World Cup was through bribes.
That I'm less clear about. You see, I think what we've got to accept is that there was a long-standing culture of corruption within FIFA itself, and that in order to get what you wanted, like to host the World Cup, FIFA would almost certainly have demanded some kind of gratuity. So I think if anybody is going to be to blame for this, it is that FIFA probably put South Africa under the cosh and demanded, pay us this or else. So I think that in this case, you might find that South Africa is more of a victim than it is an offender.
That's a very good point. Joseph, there are lots of people who've been tweeting that Africa, with its huge number of FIFA votes, the most, in fact, at 54, should be considered to lead FIFA. But in this tsunami of allegations swirling around South Africa, is it likely to deepen concern that the game in Africa is just as dirty as Mr. Blatter's FIFA?
Well, that is what they were. There were some commentators even blaming African associations for blindly supporting Sepp Blatter. But they've forgotten that Sepp Blatter gave the African continent 5 places in the last World Cup. When the numbers were increased from 24 to 20 to 32, he gave Africa 5 places. In the year 2000, Africa got the World Cup. 2009, he allowed Africa to host under 17, under 20 World Cups. So therefore, you see, in as much as Mr. Blatter has had his allegations against him, Africa owes a certain gratitude towards him personally. And I think that if Africa wants to go forward, you identify a candidate who has the ideals of pushing the continent forward in terms of football.
Okay, for the moment, Joseph Danquah and Dr. Warwick Onyeama, thank you very much indeed.